Hello, welcome back to Reclaim Within. I feel like I'm starting to kind of a little bit get used to this, and I hope I don't jinx myself there. But I feel like I'm starting to get my groove. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being on this journey and experience with me. This week on the newsletter and on the podcast, I'm going to be speaking to the sacred journey of remembering and discovering who we truly are. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's been a lifelong adventure, I would say. In this world, the matrix or the overculture is very filled with noise, and the pace can go very quickly. I believe that it's very easy to lose sight of our true essence or to get caught up in the outside world. And so my intention today is to explore the sacred process of remembering beneath the roles, masks, and the stories that we carry. My intention today is to help you connect more deeply with your authentic self and offer you insights that I hope are easy enough to be able to guide you back to the sacred core of your being. What I'm going to cover today is the art of remembering. We're going to talk about shedding stories and layers. I want to speak to following what resonates as a way to discover who you truly are, listening to your body as a way to discover, and then the mirror of relationships, which I believe is a very fertile ground to remember or discover who you actually are. And last but not least, we'll talk about embracing paradox and how important embracing paradox is for this sacred remembering process. Discovering who you truly are is not actually about becoming someone new. It's about returning to what has always existed within you. It's less about searching or doing, and it's more about listening to the quiet whispers of our hearts and our inner beings. The truth of who we are has always been present within us, waiting to be remembered. It's underneath or beyond the conditioning that we've all experienced in this world. I don't know how into astrology you are, if you're listening to this or not, but it's a very auspicious time in the world right now. Astrologically, we're having a huge shift where Pluto is moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. My personal belief or intuition, I guess I would say it's more of an inclination than a belief, is that Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring us to a lot of really paradoxical places, and that it's really important now more than ever to come home to our hearts and to remember who we are and remember who we've always intended to be as we shift and change in this world as Pluto moves into Aquarius. So I'm going to share a really quick personal brief story, and I'll also mention that if you want to know more about the astrological side of things, I can either point you into direction of people who I trust and adore, or you can always message me separately, but that's not exactly where I want this to go today. So that was a nice little side tangent. The more I've pulled away from my people-pleasing tendencies, which I learned very much from a cultural perspective, being born in the Midwest. And also, I just think that for women specifically, it's very encouraged to orient outside of ourselves. My parents were also both nurses, so it's a part of their training to orient to the other person. But I think that this is why this topic is such an important topic to me. There's so much importance, I believe, at this current time and space to actually honor both our individual highest and best good and also the highest and best good of the collective. I think that that's going to be a key experience to shape our lives as we move forward. And I think that's also a very real message of Pluto and Aquarius is, how do I honor both myself and the collective at the same time? And my personal experience of people pleasing was actually a form of self-betrayal. And so it was like, I will betray myself to honor you. And that is an old pattern that actually is not going to serve me for the world that I'm wanting to step into and co-create into the future. So if you also have had those tendencies in your past, I encourage you and welcome you to reach out to me, and I would be happy to support you in any way that I can in shifting out of those ways of being, because the more that I've learned to remember who I am and become who I am, the easier it's been to understand when I need to actually honor myself and when I need to honor others. And I'm the most excited when I get to honor myself and also honor someone else. And that's just not always the case. It's not always going to happen that way. But there's actually this really real solidity that I have found in remembering who I am and discovering myself. And that's why I wanted to share everything I wanted to share today. On top of, I just think it's a really beautiful time for this topic, being that Pluto is moving into Aquarius. Really briefly, Pluto is about life-death transformation, and Aquarius is the really interesting paradoxical sign of the water bearer. And the reason it's paradoxical is because it's actually an air sign. And so I think of this era that we're moving into as a giant paradox. It's going to be a ton of technological advancement in the next 20 years, which I think will be really beautiful. And also there's a tendency in Aquarius to almost be a little too removed or cold. And so we'll have to, all of us together, honor our humanity more and more, and remember our hearts and remember how to connect back to ourselves as we shift consciousness in this next era. How do we both honor the individual and also the humanity in the collective? I believe that is actually going to start by learning to not betray ourselves, learning to connect deeply with our inner knowing. And the deeper we are connected to ourselves, the more adaptable we can be and the more honoring we can be of people's differences and similarities. Especially with Pluto and Aquarius, there's going to be a lot of differences that we're going to connect with in the collective. We're going to see how people are very much not like us. Where are we in our own connection to ourselves? Does that offend us, or can we be okay with the fact that we're all different? And that's the beauty of this human experience. We're not here to be the same. From childhood, we are all given labels that define us. Those labels might actually be true soul imprints that we've inherited, that we've come in with. You might have been labeled the responsible one, or the sensitive one, or the achiever. These labels, they're very helpful sometimes, and yet other times they can be really limiting for us. To truly know ourselves, we must be willing to release the roles and the stories, allowing space for our truest essence to emerge, meaning that you can be in connection with those stories, but also allow yourself to connect with, does that actually feel like it's serving my highest and best good? How do I connect in with my own desires so that I can maybe even reshape or add on to that. So one of the clearest ways to know who we are is by following what truly resonates with us. It's that spark of joy, that lightness we feel when we're in alignment. What brings you to joy? And if you find joy, can you create more joy? That is a really interestingly difficult thing for us to do. It's a very common, I guess, to feel like, oh, I can just do more of what I love. That's okay. It's actually important. It's the more that we bring joy to our lives, the more that we follow what's actually in alignment, the more we are going to remember who we really are and what we're really here for. One of my teachers speaks to, what did you want to be when you were a child? What did you want to be when you were little? Because that oftentimes will be actually what you're here for. And we might feel silly. I remember wanting to be an artist. I remember wanting to be a teacher. I remember wanting to be a dancer. I remember wanting to be all these things. And I now look at myself in my life and I can finally say that I'm weaving them together. I feel like I am an artist in this life. I feel like I am here to be able to teach, not in a traditional manner, but in a way of inviting people into having different perspectives and expanding consciousness. Because I allowed myself to connect into what brings me joy and not lose sight of it. There were times in my younger years where I felt silly that that's what I wanted to be, or I felt ashamed, or I felt like the collective messaging was that I wasn't going to be or able to be, or it was fruitless to try. I'm so happy and grateful that I have oriented myself to what brings me joy and kept following those breadcrumbs along the way, because what brings you joy connects you with your heart, and your heart is the seat of the soul, and your heart will show you the path. Your heart will lead you on the path that you are here for. The resonance that you feel with your joy and happiness isn't just about a fleeting moment. It's actually about honoring the activities, the people, the practices that bring you a sense of fulfillment. And so it might be that you need to actually have a lot of discipline in your life towards what lights you up. You actually might need to cultivate that more than anything else. At the end of the day, you get home. I remember I was working 3 jobs and trying to cultivate time and space to still do what I loved. And I remember getting home late at night and feeling like I could just lay, or I could orient myself to what I actually lights me up. I just started practicing having that discipline to orient to what actually lights me up. I started that in my earlier 20s, and it's really a helpful practice. So ask yourself, what does light you up? What brings you a sense of deep peace? Take a moment and connect with that. Maybe write it down. Give yourself permission to orient more towards that. Another way to discover who you truly are is to listen to your body's wisdom. Our bodies have so much memory stored within of our own life experiences and beyond. When we listen to our body's voice, it's not going to sound like our mind's voice or our heart's voice or the spirit's voice. We have to learn to listen to what our body has to say. Oftentimes the body signals much earlier than the mind has time to catch up. Our minds are very protective. So oftentimes our minds will attempt to push or force where our body won't. So it might be a feeling of tension in yourself when something actually is not aligned, or it could be the sense of deep relaxation or joy if you are feeling like you are on the right path. And when we tune in and listen to our body's wisdom, the body will always tell us the truth. It's a really beautiful way to connect with our true selves, is actually be like, okay, my mind's telling me that I should totally go this way because it's practical and it makes most sense. My body does not want to budge in that direction. I feel sick to my stomach. I would advise you to discover who you truly are. It would be to listen to your body more, because the body has a lot of really wise knowing to share with you. We just have to learn to listen. I have learned to listen to my body through realizing that what people say and how they act are not always in alignment. So someone might say that they want the best for me, but then they do something really divisive behind my back, or they're spreading rumors that don't feel like they're supportive to me. And my body can feel like this twist in my stomach. And it's been really easy for me in my mind to just be like, oh, it's fine. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're saying that they want to support me, so that must be true. My stomach will twist. And it's learning to listen to that twist in my stomach, then be able to actually set a boundary and move forward with my life with that courage that has helped me so much of setting up healthier experiences for myself that don't orient towards self-betrayal. So relationships, as I said earlier, are probably one of the most potent tools for us to actually discover who we really are. Our relationships serve as sacred mirrors. They not only show us our patterns and our capacity for love, truth-telling, and vulnerability, but they also serve as insights to how we are going to allow ourselves to be treated, how we are going to honor our innate knowing, or have we learned to betray ourselves? Because you will see that in your relationships. A previous relationship I was in, I would betray myself over and over. And what do you know? I ended up in a situation where that person betrayed me. Now that I understand how intensely our relationships are mirrors, I have a lot of compassion for both myself and that other person. Of course, I ended up in a situation of betrayal. I was actually betraying myself over and over. And I learned that through ancestral patternings, right? That's not even anyone's specific fault, but it is my responsibility to take radical responsibility and to no longer betray myself so that I can actually live in this alignment within myself. I also then get to tell the truth in relationships. It's actually a very important thing to notice that a lot of us are not actually truth telling in our relationships. And that breeds resentment, and that breeds distrust and disdain. So if you're feeling those not so great feelings in a relationship, how can you approach relationship from a more removed place as an opportunity for self-awareness rather than needing to seek a validation or needing to fix it, needing to make it okay, needing to put a band-aid on it? What can you do? How can you orient differently so that relationship is actually just giving you information about your relationship with yourself? The relationships that I have in my life at this moment in time are so honoring of me and my time and my space and my integrity and my loyalty to myself. And that has not always been the case. I have moved through a lot of relationships where I have been mirrored back how not in integrity and not loyal and not self-respectful that I was. I was in a very not respectful place of myself, and I oriented to people who did not respect me. It's beautiful how much we can learn from relationships when we learn to see them as tools or catalysts, maybe is a better word, for our self-orientation in discovering who we are. So take a minute and reflect on your closest relationships. What are they currently teaching you about yourself? Do you need more boundaries? Do you have someone in your life that is really difficult for you? Are they showing you who you are? Are they showing you parts of yourself that you do not like? Are they showing you your own level of respect for yourself? So last but definitely not least, and goes back to a big piece of what I feel like we're going to be seeing or needing to evolve into in the next 20 years, is the complexity of being. Each and every one of us, we are complex beings. We are strong, we are vulnerable, we are wise, we make mistakes, we all have shadows, we all carry so much light. And so it's knowing how to make space for the paradox of our humanity and our divinity and being able to honor both. It's about holding that fullness of that humanity with also compassion and so much curiosity. There's often times where I will feel, especially this last year, so much grief in loss, but also so much joy for the redirect. So much joy of being able to actually have more space to be in relationship where I am actually going to be seen, heard, respected, cared for. When I orient to somebody, I know that I can be vulnerable with them and they won't use that vulnerability to attack me. Whereas in the past, that was very common for me. I'd share something vulnerable and then I feel like it would be used against me. But that's my own mirror to my own paradox inside of myself. right? And it's just their own humanity showing and my own humanity showing. So when we can actually learn to hold space for the paradoxes of our world, this allows for more complexity and allows for more multidimensional understanding of humanity. I think it's going to be very important, and it really can help us connect back into who we really are, because all of us are walking paradoxes. All of us have complexity. All of us have emotions that don't always make sense. We can be both angry and in love with someone at the same time. We can be both so sorrow-filled and so excited for the future at the same time. We can be having such an amazing, abundant, prosperous life and still have so much grief for the world around us. We can actually learn to hold both. It's so beyond possible. So in summary, remembering who we truly are is actually not about arriving at any fixed identity. It's truly about unfolding. It's about a sacred journey of consistent remembering and coming back home to ourselves. It's a process of listening and shedding and resonating and living within the questions of life. So trust the journey of becoming and unbecoming. Know that each step, each moment of stillness will bring you closer to the heart of who you truly are. And as you move through your day, I invite you to pause and breathe and remember. Feel into the sacredness of your being in this moment. Take a moment to just trust the whispers of your soul, for they are guiding you home. I'd like to offer a brief prayer or affirmation. May I have the courage to remember who I am. May I listen deeply, honor what resonates, and walk in alignment with the sacredness of life. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so honored that you spent your time with me today. I would love to hear from you. If you have anything that you'd like to share or any insights yourself on this concept, please reach out. I am on Substack. That is my primary spot that I'll be. So come and join me over there as a free or paid subscriber. Completely up to you. You subscribing to my Substack actually will just allow me to support more people and share more of these concepts with the world. And I'm excited about that. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a really beautiful rest of your day.